Hey everybody, it's Chris DeFirio, and we are right now live and trying to continue our journey to get video content up on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to Keys to the Shop on YouTube, I would encourage you to, because there's going to be unique content being generated very often, or as often as I can put it out. And if you're already a listener to the podcast, this is another place where you can find both the content of the podcast, but also some deep dives into topics that we're not covering on the podcast, or at least not the detail that we're going to be covering. And we're exploring what video looks like. So join us, subscribe, and get the notification bell clicked so you can be notified when new videos come up. And I'm just, whenever I get the hankering to get on the internet here, I am going to discipline myself to put these together. And I've been thinking a lot about cafe success lately, and partially because this is obviously what Keys to the Shop does with the podcast, is features the stories of coffee shop owners who have been successful and have gone through lots of different versions of failure and success and everything else. So on top of that, I'm a consultant, which means that I am able to work with people one-on-one and talk to them about what is the key to success for their cafe. And it's not exactly what you might think. One of the things that you might want to consider is that right now in the industry, we have probably the best information available in the most places as we've ever had. So anything related to what percentages you need for labor cost, to cost of goods, and what kind of a profit percentage you're looking for year over year, what you can expect. I like to tell people that there's no sense in hiring me to be your consultant to tell you those things that could easily be found out. Simple answers. You could ask Siri, you could Google it, and find out. Generally, small business will tell you it's 25 to 30% labor cost. The profit margin or the profit percentage in a good coffee shop generally is going to be 10 to 15%, sometimes lower than 10%, depending. But cost of goods is one of those things that's around 30% and probably a lot lower for coffee drinks. You'd want that. But you could ask that question to the internet and find out that information. The question is, once you get all of that information down, what do you do with it? And who are you in the midst of this operation? Are you the type of person who can handle the business that you are developing, and the people that are going to be a part of your business as well? That's incredibly important, and it is the thing that most people miss in a coffee shop. So when we ask questions about why coffee shops fail, we will often get the answer, oh, well, maybe it was a bad location, or they didn't have the right market concept, and we act as though there is a silver bullet that if you get the right answer to this, you are going to have a successful coffee shop. When in reality, virtually anybody can open a cafe whose model has been proven. If you do a drive-through, a cart, a brick and mortar, or anywhere in between, you could pull case studies for your business plan to show that this is a viable option. And you could have lots of traffic on the street. You could have this viable business model that lots of people have been successful with over the years, but it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. The difference between those people who are sustainable in their business, build thriving cultures and customer bases with great products that are loved and over time become established as kind of icons in the industry. Of course, they have good business practices. You have to have those things, right? But they also have something in between, something that connects it all. It's the culture, it's the values, it's who is doing what and why and for whom. And are you doing this simply to ride a wave of a trend? The soullessness of this idea that you have might be financially rewarded based on circumstance, but you're going to have to put up with a lot of wasted time and effort in turnover and coaxing customers to come in on, against their will sometimes because they're not doing it themselves. They're not, drawn magnetically to your business because it's not really connecting to the soul of who they are. The businesses that have, yes, good business practices, good cost of goods, a good location, a clean space, maintenance on their equipment, and all this stuff that we talk about on the show often. It's how they put that stuff together on the day to day that will communicate to the customer that it's not just an assembly of ingredients, machines, and bodies. Because that's what a lot of coffee shops feel like sometimes, is somebody decided they were going to open a coffee shop, and so they got all the stuff together, and it has all the trappings of a coffee shop, but it's almost like a coffee shop designed by CGI or AI or something. There's this uncanny valley feel to it, where it's like, it's a coffee shop, and it just doesn't feel right. And the reason is because they don't have certain elements that lead to a magnetic draw that says we've taken all of these things and we've combined them together with relationships, with our operational values, with our the why behind the what, and a patience with discovering who we are instead of coming out fully formed. Like with a tree doesn't grow from a seed in one day. And that's what a lot of these coffee shops try to do, is they raise money. They raise so much money that, in fact, they lose out on the opportunity to learn lessons that the illusion is that they can skip the lessons because they have the money. It's not the case. And I was just talking to somebody a few days ago who said in the course of opening their business, wasn't related to coffee, they said they raised too much money and it was actually bad for their business. There is a lot to be said for getting to know who you are over the course of the ups and downs of simple execution of a meaningful service and experience over time that scales gradually. And the key to success is being that kind of intentional, values-driven person and group of persons in the coffee shop. Not that you bought the right kind of equipment, because you've been to coffee shops where they have very expensive and beautiful equipment, but you leave feeling like there was nothing beautiful about this. And it's not the things that money can buy, but it's what you do with the things you buy with your money and who you are in the process. And so the key to success we want to talk about is really focused on those intangibles that actually have a tangible impact when they are done the right way. So you have to immerse yourself in the industry to identify and get the feeling of what that is. Just like tasting coffee, if you are new to coffee, one of the first things that's going to happen is you're just going to have the feeling that all coffee tastes the same. And at first, that's very true, okay? Because you can't pick up the nuances, mainly because your palate is overloaded with getting used to one kind of like coffee note. Over time, you develop an ability to identify some of the higher end notes, some of those, the signal and the noise, if you will. And that will lead you to being able to identify the difference between different origins, different processing methods, but it's a immersion into the industry or into that tasting ritual and intentionally focusing on it that allows you to build that layer, that foundation of familiarity, where then you can identify the nuances. But if you don't immerse yourself in the industry in order to get that skill, then what's going to happen is you're going to always think that the first impression that you had about what leads to success is the right one, when in fact it actually is these intangible things at first, but they are tangible when you identify them. They're identifiable when you are immersed in this. So when you open a coffee shop, one of the things you really need to pay attention to is how much do you actually know about coffee shops? What do you know about a great experience in a coffee shop or coffee itself, and how immersed are you in the industry? That's a very, very important thing that you need to have in your approach. The other thing that you're going to have in order to be successful is planning. I think part of the planning process is the idea that you've planned to learn, especially. That's important. Planning to learn means you know that you don't know everything, and you can't know everything. Even if you have hired me to help you, or another consultant to help you, there is no way that everybody knows everything, because you are discovering who you are as you go. Every coffee shop, while they operate from it's a business, and there has to be some basic, like you and I, we're different people, but we all have to have food and water. That's just what we need. So even if I am wildly different from you, I share the same needs. The food and water of business is obviously capital. It is marketing. It's all the things that are talked about in the Business Made Simple framework. If you haven't really looked that up, you can do so. It's Business Made Simple podcast talks about this a lot. And I think you really would do well to plan on what you're going to do to respond to new discoveries in your coffee shop as you go. So if you're not planning on growth personally and in the business, and I don't mean just like making more money, because anybody can do stuff to make more money, but it's how are you going to maintain the integrity of your business over time in order to flourish in your success instead of curse your success because you're not planning for it. You're not doing what we talk about on the show a lot, which is as you get bigger, you have to operate smaller, and you have to focus on relationships more, because how you got there largely is based on those relationships. And the mistake we have in coffee is often we will focus more on the systems and the numbers as we get bigger, and then we just lose it because we lost our focus on what really matters. The other thing that you need to have, I talked about already, which was values. The values of your business are not just values about what we want to do. Like we want to provide community for our community. We love coffee and love people. Those are statements. Statements are not operational values. Operational values are all about what are you going to do when you're operating your business, down to the such a specific degree to say, if you believe in community, what does that mean for your baristas? How does a barista accomplish community? What drives their decisions, and how does that look? What do the details look like of operational values? If you don't have specifics and you think of values as only aspirations to be living in your mind but not done with your hands, and how you interact with other people in the business, then what's going to happen is people are just going to insert their own values. They're going to behave in ways that might be actually antithetical to what you wanted to create. So you have to create clear pathways for people to identify what values look like in practice. That's one of the first things we talk about with clients at Keys to the Shop Consulting is, what does the practice of these values look like on Wednesday at 3 p.m.? Or when we're closing the cafe on Friday night? What does it look like to practice integrity or community or quality, attention to detail? So if you don't have real street level applications, then you really don't have values that are useful. And this is most coffee shops that kind of flounder in this area. And it's what makes success so difficult to come by, is because we're borrowing metrics and values from others and slapping them onto our businesses, thinking that it's some kind of a panacea for meaning. Like it's going to work for us because it worked for them, is probably the biggest lie that has ever been told. Now, market research and validation of your concept is something that you need to do. There is like market truth. But again, your business is unique. And if you're not a student of your business from its very inception until even 50 years from now, God bless you if you can stay open for 50 years, then what you're doing is you're borrowing metrics, you're borrowing meaning from others, and it looks weird on you and it doesn't work. And then you wonder why. And the answer always comes back, well, maybe it was that, we had a bad location, or it's anything and everything except for those things that are harder to see, that the values just, you didn't do the due diligence to figure out what is my cafe's meaning and purpose, and how can I work to identify those things and codify them over time in the DNA of my business. Okay. So success is hard to come by because success is something that happens over time. And at the same time, on the internet, you'll find lots of videos that say there's 10 steps to success. And it's as easy as following these things. It's not easy. And the return on the investment of your attention and resources to these areas that we just talked about is not so readily seen. So you have to have sort of a belief already in place that these are things that are integral to my success, and not demand the return on that investment right away, because the compound effect of your attention on these critical areas will create success over time. But you're going to have lots of moments of questioning, what am I even doing? And it's not that you are spending a lot of money to have great communication, great relationships, values-based operational standards, and specific SOPs. You're not spending a lot of time or money to do that. But the investment of emotion and attention you'll be tempted to feel like it's a waste. And I would urge you to not do that, to not give up, to already determine if you're going to open a shop, or if you've said, I'm going to turn a new leaf, then determine that these are things that you're going to invest in consistently. And when you do that, give up your right to see the full reward from your investment right away. A year from now, if you start practicing better relationships, more attention to communication, and maybe affirmation of your staff, and developing systems that allow you to have margin to care for people and the experience by having operational values that are specific to your business, and just planning to respond well to the growth that you anticipate having by fortifying those relationships as you scale. These are things that are going to lead to success, and you won't be as desperate as other people are. And you've seen this many times, where people who live and die by borrowed metrics of success and borrowed values from other places, not doing the work themselves to figure out what that is, they live and die by this. They will create a coffee shop that is essentially a clearinghouse for other people's great ideas, but not their own cafe. It's not them, and then they feel trapped. What do we do now? We're not sure. And success eludes you because some of the keys to success are elusive, and they're not the most readily available on the internet. But if you ask enough questions and you watch with enough attention the successful people out there, the more fulfilled people out there in the coffee shop space, you're going to see this theme. And over hundreds and hundreds of conversations with coffee professionals over the last 7 years, this idea of that the keys are in between the big picture things is more evident than it's ever been, in my opinion. So anyway, I hope that this has been helpful, and there's more that you can listen to around leadership, entrepreneurship, if you subscribe to Keys to the Shop, both on YouTube and on wherever you listen to podcasts, if it's Overcast or Apple or Spotify. And I would encourage you to just search the episodes for things you're interested in. These are things that come up in the show all the time. And if you feel like wanting to reach out and have a conversation, then do so by emailing chris@keystotheshop.com, CHRIS @keystotheshop.com. No funky spellings there. And I would love to chat with you. So anyway, leave your comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe or get the notification bell there so you can be updated when new video content comes out, because there is more that we're going to do on YouTube through Keys to the Shop, and I'm excited for it. So thanks for joining, and we will see you again soon.